Welcome to the deep dive. Ever thought about, unlocking hidden potential or accessing maybe deeper insights, even real transformation? Well, today we're diving into something truly fascinating, the concept of speaking in tongues, glossolalia. We've been looking at some really compelling source material, especially from Dr. Chris Oyakhilome and other biblical scholars too. And they present this practice not just, as a religious thing, but as a source of some pretty extraordinary benefits.
Right. And that's really our goal for this deep dive. We want to explore these, well, extensive claims tied to the practice. Dr. Oyakhilome, he really emphasizes this idea that it offers this huge range of profound supernatural benefits. He even suggests there could be up to 80 distinct ones. It's framed as delivering this sort of holistic transformation.
80.
Yeah, 80. What's interesting is how the source kind of positions that number.
Yeah.
It's like it represents a complete, all-encompassing set of advantages for your spirit, soul, and body.
80 different benefits. Okay, that's definitely a bold claim. And that's why we're here, really. Our mission, then, is to unpack how the sources present such a wide array of transformations. We want to identify what makes these benefits seem so impactful and sometimes, honestly, quite surprising within the framework they provide. Okay, so let's unpack this. Where do we start? Maybe with the foundational claims. The stuff about direct spiritual access. According to these sources, speaking in tongues is like an entrance into the supernatural realm, and also direct communication with God. That's a specific reference they make to 1 Corinthians 14.2. It sounds like a direct line, no interference.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, according to the material, is that this isn't just about talking to God. It's described as leading to the edification, the building up of the Spirit. That's from 1 Corinthians 14.4. And this building up, it's not just a feeling, it's presented as actively boosting your intimacy with God, which then leads towards perfect alignment with God's will. Romans 8.2627 is cited there. The source material argues this actually activates spiritual gifts and makes you much more sensitive to the Holy Spirit. It's like recalibrating your spiritual compass.
Right, so if it provides this deep connection and alignment, then the sources suggest this isn't just passive, right? It's for active engagement, particularly in what they call spiritual combat. So let's transition to that. How is it presented as like a protective tool and an offensive one too? It's described as a weapon against demonic forces, citing Mark 16.12, and also a way of quenching Satan's fiery darts, referencing Ephesians 6.16. That paints a very, active picture, almost combative.
Precisely. Yeah, the material goes further too. It describes divine protection through a watery shield of the Spirit. Yeah, this isn't just a metaphor, apparently. The sources explain it as this palpable sense of spiritual defense, something that actively pushes back negative influences, spiritual attacks, almost like an invisible but strong barrier around you. And I say this practice is key for achieving breakthrough in persistent strongholds and also for gaining authority in spiritual conflicts. So yeah, not just defensive, it's framed as the way to actively overcome spiritual opposition.
Okay, so beyond the spiritual battlefield, the source material talks about really personal internal benefits too. We're talking things like release from anxiety and stress, kind of supernatural peace and rest, and they bring Isaiah 28.1112 into that discussion, and even healing for depression and trauma. I mean, those are significant claims about emotional and mental health. How do the sources bridge that internal stuff to something like, say, cognitive benefits?
Well, the connection, as Dr. Oyakhilome's work presents it, seems quite direct. The practice is linked to a renewal of the mind, drawing from Romans 12.2. And even, get this, a downloading of divine wisdom, referencing 1 Corinthians 2.7. This, the sources argue, leads to things like clarity in decision-making, and even enhanced creativity and innovation. But maybe the most intriguing claim is the quieting of the frontal lobe. The material describes this as reducing mental clutter. Essentially, the source uses these neurological points to suggest glossolalia kind of bypasses your conscious analytical mind, allowing for this direct, unfiltered line to spiritual wisdom. It's a really interesting mix of neurology and theology as they interpret it.
It's one thing hearing about shifts in, the spiritual or mental side, but the sources then make an even bolder leap, suggesting this practice can cause really profound changes in our physical bodies. Now, this is where the claims get incredibly specific and, frankly, quite remarkable. It's a big jump from mental to physical. Our sources talk about physical healing, physical health, including an immune system boost.
Yeah.
And not just a small one, a 35–40% increase. That's staggering. Plus claims of accelerated physical healing for things like cyst shrinking or chronic pain relief.
Yeah, and here's where the source material presents some really remarkable claims. It gets very specific. They discuss the restoration of bodily organs, citing 1 Corinthians 6.19. And the source indicates this isn't just metaphorical language. It's presented as a literal process where the body's internal systems are actually revitalized, based on the principle that the spirit, through this practice, can directly influence physical regeneration right down to the cellular level. It also mentions detoxification from stress-induced illnesses, and even anti-aging effects via cellular renewal, which is quite something. And on a more immediate level, it's connected to pain management and improved neurological function. It really paints a picture of total physical restoration and enhancement.
Wow. Okay, so how does this translate into just everyday life? Do the sources connect it practically? They seem to. They mention things like prayer coverage during routine tasks, driving, doing chores, also intercession for others beyond human language, and even practical benefits like provision in financial crises, career guidance, and restored relationships. It really seems like the practice is believed to touch almost every part of life. What about personal growth? Is that in there too?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The scope definitely extends to personal growth. The material suggests a transformation into Christ's image, referencing 2 Corinthians 3.18, and the cultivation of the fruit of the Spirit from Galatians 5.22233. It's also linked to freedom from sinful habits. And there's this interesting idea of achieving supernatural timing, like being in the right place at the right time. The source describes it as this almost uncanny synchronicity, divine guidance leading you to opportunities or decisions that kind of defy logical explanation.
Right. What's particularly interesting, I think, is how the source material then tries to back some of this up. It introduces what it calls scientific and anecdotal evidence. It's one thing to hear about spiritual benefits, but when the material tries to bridge that with empirical studies, well, that definitely makes you look closer.
Yeah, exactly. They highlight brain scans, for instance, work by neuroscientists like Dr. Andrew Newberg. These scans supposedly show reduced frontal lobe activity during glossolalia, which induces a kind of mental stillness, maybe similar to meditation. And this is presented as significant because, well, that part of the brain is linked to analytical thought, self-awareness.
Wow.
So reducing its activity is framed as a way to bypass those rational filters, access a different kind of wisdom, like direct download almost. Spiritually sourced, though. And then there's Dr. Carl Peterson's research on immune response. This is cited as claiming that speaking in tongues actually triggers healing chemicals, specifically immunoglobulins, those proteins that fight disease. So the source interprets this as a direct physiological impact, a measurable boost to the body's defenses.
And beyond the lab work, the sources also lean heavily on testimonies, stories of documented healings. They cite examples like a pancreatic cyst reducing in size, even cases of cancer remission. So according to the source material, when you pull all of this together, what's the big picture? What does it all mean? Oh, and they also briefly touch on the eschatological and eternal impact, don't they? Things like preparation for Christ's return and eternal rewards.
Right. To kind of summarize Dr. Oyakhilome's core message, speaking in tongues is presented as the prayer and the supernatural. It's seen as this gift that unlocks God's fullness for spirit, soul, and body. He emphasizes that while the 80 benefits idea suggests completeness, the real core is its role as a conduit for divine partnership. And he has that powerful quote, "Tongues is not gibberish. It was the language of the Spirit for total victory."
So, thinking about all that, what stands out to you, the listener, from this exploration? It's certainly a unique practice with some extraordinary claimed benefits, as presented in these sources. We've definitely uncovered a remarkable range of claims today. Everything from profound spiritual connection and emotional healing, all the way to very specific physical health improvements and even cognitive enhancement. This deep dive really shows how the source material presents speaking in tongues as this, well, comprehensive tool for transformation, impacting pretty much every area of life.
It certainly encourages reflection, doesn't it? Maybe challenges some preconceived ideas about wellness or communication, or even that mind-body connection. And the sources make that interesting point, that even skeptics acknowledge transformative effects when consistently practiced. It's quite a statement to consider, regardless of your personal beliefs. The idea that consistent practice is presented as producing tangible changes, even for those who start out unsure, makes you think.
Definitely. For those of you interested in exploring this further, the source material we looked at suggests checking out Release God's Power by Dr. Oyakhilome. Or another one mentioned is Praying in the Spirit by Robert Graves. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.